It's time for the Coach Groves Show, where we sit down with the head coach of the Darlington Tigers football team and talk about all things Darlington School football. Now we go live to Matt Davis and Ian Griffin, who are standing by with Coach Wayne Groves.
Indeed we are. We're glad you're with us for the second week of the season version of the Coach Groves Show. I'm Matt Davis, Ian Griffin with us. And, of course, we've got Coach Groves in the studio, and we're going to be talking some Tigers football for the next 30 minutes, which we're fired up about. So, first of all, Coach, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, glad to be back and ready to have another great week of Tiger football.
Absolutely, man. So we're just going to go ahead and jump into our questions. Here in our first segment, we're going to mainly talk about last week's game, the opening of the season. And, Coach, last week we were talking about this before we went into the conversation. I just realized I looked at our graphics. I did it backwards. So I'm Ian Griffin today, and you're Matt Davis,
nice.
Just so you know.
I appreciate it. I've got more hair than I usually do.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Not much more, though.
No.
But that threw me for a loop and looked down to see that. But anyway, we'll try to recover from that. But anyway, after a 3-hour weather delay and eventual postponement, you guys played a noon game last Saturday to start the season. It was hot. Of course, didn't get the results you were looking for, but there were some really bright spots and some building blocks that we saw in this game. So let's start with the positive. Tell us what you saw from your team, out of game one that just really stood out to you, Coach.
Well, the first thing, and what I told the boys, I was proud of them. The conditions were not great. It was the hottest wet bulb that I've seen in 3 or 4 years. And if it was a practice day, we wouldn't have been allowed to practice. Mm-hmm. So, the heat was definitely a factor. But what I was proud of our kids were the whole ball game we played hard. We didn't always play well, especially in the second half, but we played extremely hard. We never quit. We never gave up. And they just kept coming after them, and so I can build off that. We can correct the other mistakes, technique-wise, mental mistakes. We can get fixed. But if they'll keep playing hard, then we got a chance to keep improving. And so I was very proud to see that.
No question about that. That was one of the things we talked about on the broadcast for sure. Well, on last week's show, one of the players that you talked about, Coach, was Jace Donaldson, and you mentioned that he would be one of those guys that saw some snaps last year, but this year would have a more meaningful role in terms of the team, and he certainly did. And Ian, he was the Honeymoon Bakery icing on the cake player of the game last week.
Yeah, listen to this stat line: 6 carries, 62 yards, touchdown; 2 receptions, 56 yards, a touchdown, and then a 50-yard kickoff return. So I'd say he made a splash. So what were your thoughts on his performance?
Well, first of all, Jace is just a tremendous kid, and he's very fun to coach. He's a very humble kid, and so the first thing that he would tell you if he was sitting right here is he'd thank his teammates for helping him achieve those things during the ball game. But his potential is limitless. Jace can be as good a football player as he decides he wants to be, and he's got the lineage. He's got the Donaldson name. That's Ray Donaldson. I think that's Xavier Donaldson. I think there's relation there, and so. And then the thing that's even better about Jace is he's humble enough to come back this week and say, there's still things to improve on that he needs to clean up in his game. And so he'll do that, and he'll continue to be a good ball player for us.
And, Coach, in terms of other standout performances that you had in last week's game, we were talking just before we went on the air. There were some guys that made some big plays. So anybody else that you'd like to point out? Obviously, he was our Honeymoon Bakery icing on the cake player of the game, but other individual performances that you feel like should be mentioned on the show today?
Well, I was really proud of Nate Konchesky. He's one that's just worked his tail off the last year, and he's just been waiting on his opportunity. And he got some great opportunities and made some plays in some big-time situations, catching some touchdown passes and some big third-down conversions. So I was really proud of Nate, and I think that's worthy of note for sure.
We got Coach Groves with us. This is the Coach Groves Show in our first segment here of the day. And you guys, as we talked about, just battled all afternoon. The game wasn't out of reach until a decent amount of time into the fourth quarter. So what are the points of emphasis in terms of this week and things that you feel like you need to shore up before you go into game two?
After ball games, I try not to just overload the kids with how much stuff we need to improve on. So we always simplify it down to about 3 or 4 things. So this week, obviously, ball security. I know we had 1 turnover, but we had a bunch of mishandled balls, on some sprint outs and bootlegs. We mishandled some balls and some snaps that maybe we didn't lose the ball and create a turnover, but it caused us a negative yards play. So cleaning up some of the ball security, mishandling that, it's always a premium. Can't miss opportunities. In the first half, we had 3 wide open wheel routes for touchdowns, and we don't connect. And so in a ball game like that, where it's 2 really good teams playing, you've got to have those opportunities. So we can't miss open opportunities. Number 3, in the second half, we got a little fatigued and we didn't run our feet up when we tackled. And so their good running back was able to break some tackles and get in the end zone there or extend to some third downs. We didn't do a great job in open field, so that's open field with the quarterback. So that's been a point of emphasis. And then a couple of little special teams mistakes we needed to clean up on. So that's what we've been working on this week for sure.
Well, Ian, in our next question, we're going to talk about a specific player. And I just looked down at the live feed here. His dad's watching. So we're about to be talking about
proud papa out there. We called a lot of underclassmen their names last week. One of those being freshman kicker Spencer Baker, who really seemed to settle in as the game progressed. Talk about these young guys and what it takes to get out there and adapt to the situation of playing at this level for the first time. I mean, that's a big moment.
Yeah, it's very difficult for a freshman to come in and one, start, but 2, a significant amount of playing time. Probably a little easier for a kicker to do it than others. I thought Spencer, there's probably some little pregame jitters there, first game jitters, and then he kind of settled in and he had some really good kicks. Another one is Zayden Simpson. He's one that's coming along. It's going to get a lot more playing time. He's playing some corner and playing some wide receiver, but I love the way he's working at practice. And it's just really, for those guys, last year they're going against Model Middle School, and now we're going against the varsity. And the speed of the game is just so much faster for them, and just the physicality of the game. So it takes a special kid to be able to handle that. The last one is Lane Brasington. He's a freshman. He's a little undersized, small lineman, but he's quick, he's tough, and he's gritty, and he just does everything we ask him to do. So when you have those things that bring to your game, if you're tough and you're gritty, we can find a spot for you to play. And so he's definitely stepped into the role right there at guard and is contributing pretty big for us.
Well, again, this is the Coach Grove Show, and we're glad that you're with us today. We got one more question related to last week, and then we'll take a break. We'll shift some gears as we go along throughout the show, but still have a good amount of time left here of the show to cover a lot of things, and we're excited about the opportunity to do so, talk all things Tigers football. But, Coach, over the years of covering football, I've often heard coaches talk about a team's greatest improvements coming between the first and second games of the season. I've heard that so many times. Is that something that you typically see as being true? Is that something you say yourself?
Yeah, we talk about that too. And really, from 1 to 2 to 2 to 3 to 3 to 4, each game you're going to learn something about yourself. You're going to learn things you do well. You're going to learn things that you need to clean up. And just because we got it right 2 weeks ago, maybe against Mount Vernon, doesn't mean we got it. We may go back into some bad habits. So, it's definitely it's a process developing a team. I was going to tell the team about our 2016 Rome team. I would say the first 3 or 4 games, we started off 1-2. We were not playing very good defense. And then we really didn't start playing really good defense till about week 8. So sometimes it takes some teams a little longer to get the techniques right, to learn the whole system and understand their role within that system. So there's been a premium on not trying to do too much, just do your job, your little, I make the reference to a 9.1%, your little 9.1%, just do that and do it to the best of your ability. And overall the team will succeed from that.
And Coach, on that same note, as far as last weekend and everything that went into getting that game in to start with, obviously the lightning delay, the early start, the heat, all the adversity that you face in that game. What has the tone been like at practice week? How have your guys responded to all of that?
It's really been really good, and after the game, it wasn't the result that we wanted, but the first thing we're always going to do is I tell them, I said, me included, I said, we're going to look in the mirror and we're going to reflect and see what could each of us done better to make sure that this result doesn't happen again. And so I always think that in my coach and my coaches, assistant coaches, and then the players too. And so we reviewed the film. We showed them exactly what we need to do to improve and keep moving the team forward. And I challenged them. I said, you can feel sorry for yourself and drop your head, or you can use this as an opportunity to grow and to get better. And sometimes when God gives you difficult times, it's necessary for growth, and He's putting you through those tough times to make you a better person or a better player later on. And so that's how the approach has been, and I've really been pleased with our effort at practice. It's been physical, it's been intense, and it's been a lot of focus and want to. So as long as we'll keep doing that, keep that mindset, we've got a chance to keep improving, and we'll see how good we can get.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, we've got a lot to cover here on the show, the Coach Grove Show. A little bit later on in the show, we're going to talk about this week's opponent. It's going to be the North Cobb Christian Eagles. I look down and we're getting more Rambo references on our comments there. I think that's going to happen every week, Ian, ever since last Halloween. But we're going to talk about the opponent, and we're also going to talk about the black shirts. That's something that we talked about last year, which we always really enjoyed that segment. So still a lot to come. Anything you want to say before we
I'm just wondering, does that mean that our viewers are drawing first blood? Is that what's happening?
Well, we will go ahead and take our first break. We're glad you're with us. It's the Coach Grove Show. We'll be right back.
Riverside Auto Group is celebrating 50 years in Rome and Northwest Georgia. Join the celebration and shop for your next car, truck, or SUV from Riverside Auto Group. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
Hello and welcome back to the Coach Groves Show, where we talk Darlington football with the head Tiger himself, Wayne Groves. Glad to be back. And Coach, let's jump into this next segment by talking about the coveted black shirts from last week. So let's get the scoop on offense, defense, special teams. Who was lucky enough to get that award?
All right. Well, we do a really good job at practice. Even though we have, small roster and small numbers, everybody contributes at our practice, and everybody understands their role in our practice and their value and what it takes to get better. And so the first two, and some of these guys play a lot on Friday, and they're even starters. So the simulation offense and scout offensive player went to Ty Wood. When he's not starting on the offense, he's over there getting simulation look from scout defense. When he's not in on defense, he's over there playing tackle on offense. And so, that kind of effort, and he's going hard as he possibly can to give us that great look, not only when he's on the field in the first team, but when we need him for that simulation look, he's out there killing it too. And so Ty Wood gets that. Simulation defense, and I could say the same thing about him. And he played a lot of snaps this Friday. Sophomore Grady Ferguson. He ended up playing a lot in the Mount Vernon game. He played a lot, and he's making plays. And Grady's a fun young man to coach, and he's just going to keep getting better because he has such a desire to be a good football player. Special teams, we gave it to Trenton Moore. I thought he punted the ball really well. Just coming in there and doing some great things and getting the ball down the field and changing field position a couple of times. And then defensive black shirt, and I probably could have given him the offensive one too, but it was Sam 20, senior linebacker and offensive lineman. Sam played over 110 snaps on Saturday in that heat. And then at one point he cramped a little bit. We got him over to the side. Donnie kind of rubbed him out a little bit and got those cramps out, and he went right back in the ball game. I mean, it's just a total another level of toughness to play that much. We had refs falling out after the first quarter, and Sam's in there playing 100 snaps and not falling off. And then our offensive black shirt went to Henry Ledbetter. He played tight end. He came in there and played quarterback at the end, threw a touchdown pass, and did some really good things blocking and in that aspect. And so played just about every snap on defense too. All right, but just his effort on offense and the way he stepped in and contributed. So Henry Ledbetter got the black shirt on for offense.
And in addition to the heat and everything else was going on, one of the things that you missed out on, Ian, is we had some wasps that were coming into the press box.
Really?
And I think that the total at the end of the game that we swatted was 9. So
from now on, it needs to be
trains and wasps.
And you had a rookie in the booth too, so you were just training Grayson to deal with all adverse situations.
Yeah,
correct?
yep. I
You
showed him
planted
my
those
marksmanship right out of the gate,
yeah.
and then he got the last couple.
Okay.
So it was interesting. No question about that. Well, this is the Coach Grove Show. We've already talked a little bit about the adversity that you faced and the lessons that you can learn out of those situations and things of that nature. So to follow that up with the game played on Saturday instead of Friday and all that sort of thing, how did that change the approach in terms of your week and how the schedule went and things of that sort?
Well, it definitely throws you off, and it throws your routine off. And so, as coaches, a lot of us are creatures of routine and habit. And so when you play on Saturday, well, now your Saturday work and Sunday work's got to be done on Sunday. So first of all, as coaches, normally on Saturday we come in at 7 o'clock, review. We're there about 7 to about 10:30. And then Sunday we come in, we work early. We come in at 6 o'clock, and we usually go 6 to 10:30. Well, this Sunday we had to do our Saturday and Sunday work, so we were way after lunch working on Sunday, and so it's just a lot goes into getting that ready for Monday and getting the kids and getting the practice plan and scripts dialed in and ready to go for North Cobb Christian. What would change for the players on the short week is obviously as a very draining game, heat and hydration wise, but also physically. And so we felt it was important to shorten our practice on Monday. And so our normal practice on Monday would be a 24-period practice, which would be right at a little over 2 hours. And then we'd do it in full pads. With the short week, we felt it was necessary to go in helmets only on Monday and to cut the practice to an 18-period, hour-and-a-half practice. So to help us maybe get our legs back underneath us and all that. We also cut some volume in the weight room from what we would normally do, with a week 2 game. So just trying to take care of the kids, get them back recovered, get them legs back underneath them. And then, so Tuesday and Wednesday, we were back to normal practices. We were in full pads on Tuesday, pro pads today. And then tomorrow morning, we'll have our helmet practice at 6 a.m., kind of our last run through to get ready for North Cobb. So that's kind of how our week's been. And that's how we've modified.
And, of course, one of the things, it was a really happening weekend around campus because you had the Purple Tie event that was taking place that evening. There was a middle school game that was going on, I think, when we got there, and just a flurry of activity all over campus.
Just kids and athletes everywhere. It's a good thing.
Yes, sir.
Well, as we bring this middle segment to a close, we're going to go into one of our favorite segments, the Getting to Know Coach Grove segment. So this week, our question for you is, do you have any rituals, routines, or superstitions that you factor into getting yourself ready and dialed in on game day?
Well, again, and we kind of hit on this a little bit earlier, but coaches, we're so dialed into like routines and set habits and things. And so, yeah, there is. Our whole game day is planned and organized and routined out. Like, we have a system to how we pass out equipment. It's always numbers 1 through 10 are going to get their equipment first, and then it's going to be 11 through 20, and then it's going to be 20 through 34, and then it's going to be 50 and above. So there's a system there. There's going to be a system to how we pack on away games. There's a system how we get our stuff ready. And it's open up your travel bag, put your jersey on your shoulder pads, put them in the bag. Now grab your helmet, put them in the hole of your shoulder pads, tie your shoes together. Why is that important? Because we've had kids before that showed up to a ball game with one shoe or no helmet. So, and we just do everything in routine. How we eat our pregame meal, how we do our pregame meetings and walkthroughs and all that. And then, we listen to some music and I let the boys kind of listen to what they want to listen to. And then, but when we come back in from our pregame warm-ups, there's 3 things I got to have. One, we get in there and there's about 15 minutes. We're going to go with, you got to play Eye of the Tiger as loud as you can in the locker room. And then we're going to play Welcome to the Jungle as loud as you can in the locker room. And then we're going to play Phil Collins in the Air Tonight. And then I'm going to come in and we're going to give a pregame speech. And Coach Loudermilk's going to talk to the offense. And then we're going to get in the tunnel. We're going to pray. And then we're going to come and run through the Tiger. And we're going to play hard for Darlington Tigers.
Now I have this vision of while these songs are playing at full blast of Coach Groves putting the red headband on and putting the blacks all over his face and getting ready to go out there with the 2 ammo belts on and fire his Tigers up. But I mean, maybe that's just my imagination. But.
That, and then also going through my mind in this situation is I really want to see a Coach Groves pregame speech. So I don't know if this is possible or not, but what about we get Nathan to bring a camera in one of these, or is that kind of off limits?
We may could do that. We may could do that. I can come up with a $2 good one every now and then.
I got you. I'd love to see it. But anyway, well, that's going to wrap up our middle segment of the show. And the next segment is all going to be dedicated to the North Cobb Christian Eagles, because I know that's what the focus has been this week. A good team coming to town, and we're going to talk all about that coming up in our last segment of the show, man. But this is the Coach Grove Show, and we're glad you're here for it on WLAQ's YouTube channel and also our Facebook Live feed, or you may be listening at some point to the radio version of the program that airs before the games. However you're with us, we're glad you're with us, and we'll be back for more after these messages. We'll return.
Riverside Auto Group is celebrating 50 years in Rome and Northwest Georgia. Join the celebration and shop for your next car, truck, or SUV from Riverside Auto Group. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
All right, we welcome you back into this episode of the Coach Grove Show here on the WLAQ YouTube channel and also our Facebook Live feed. And as we always say, we're super glad that you're with us and that we have some time to spend with Coach Groves today to talk all things Darlington Tigers football and then some other stuff from time to time that we sprinkle into the show. But, Coach, we're shifting our focus over to the North Cobb Christian Eagles for this segment. I know that's what your focus has been all week, is getting ready for this big matchup and, just looking at your schedule. I mean, this is a tough schedule, and this is another tough opponent. I know in AJC's top 10 this week in the new 3A to A classification that the Eagles have moved up a couple spots to number 8 after a win over Providence Christian last week, a game I think they were up 14-0. Then they had a weather situation, went ahead and called that game. But this is a good team, and in the past, there's been some really good matchups between the Tigers and North Cobb Christian. So this is an exciting matchup, certainly for the fans and whatnot. But tell us a little bit about the biggest strengths that you see from the Eagles after watching some film.
Yeah, well, first of all, they're coached really well. Their coach Matt Jones and I are friends. We talk regularly in the off season. And really, he's a really good guy. They run a really good program, and so they're coached really well. You have a lot of respect for them. On offense, what you're going to see out of them. They're more 11 personnel. They use a little sniffer back. They get in twins and trips with it. They're going to run zone and split zone, and they like to run counters. And they're very good in the passing game. Their quarterback is a D1 player. They've got 3 D1 receivers and a couple big linemen up front, and they throw the ball. Their passing game is really good. They throw these RPO glance routes really well. They throw deep vertical routes very well. They try to hit you with the home runs, and they're capable of doing it if you don't get your eyes in the right spot and the DBs don't play sound fundamental coverage. So on defense, they're going to stand out. They got 2 big defensive ends that are really good. They're going to play 4-3 defense. They get into a little 4-2 cover 3, and then they'll get into some odd 3-4 looks as well and play cover 2, 3, and 4. So they do a good job. We have a lot of respect for them. They're a program that I think has really done a good job of developing their football program. I talked to Matt a while back, and in 2021, his first year, they won 3 games, and he had 25 players. And at the end of the season, because of injuries and kids quitting, they had 18. And then so the school made a commitment. They made a commitment from the top to invest in football and to invest in building the roster. And so now he's got a 68-man roster there.
Wow.
And so, that's why they're able to be really, really successful and they're doing a good job with it. So they're a good opponent, and it's going to take a great effort and playing exactly like we've been coached to play and playing 4 quarters as hard as we can to win this ball game.
So you mentioned some of the players, but let's get into specific guys on this Eagles squad that you're going to have to key on this week.
Well, if you watch him on offense, the first guy that stands out is the quarterback, Teddy Gerard. He's a sophomore. He's about 6'3", 200. He's got multiple Power 5 offers, but he's kind of a gunslinger. He throws the ball really well, and he's got a quick release. Their H-back, number 22, Carson Bruce, is a sophomore. He's probably about 6 foot, about 205 pounds, really good athlete. He's kind of a lead blocker for them and seals the edge, and he can be a vertical pass threat. And then the 3 receivers that are very touted are number 11, DJ Huggins. He's a sophomore. Number 15, Austin Tambura. And then number 4, Brody Archie, who's a senior. Those guys all stand out pretty good, and they're good route runners.
We've got Coach Groves here for just a few more minutes as we start winding down the show. We've really covered a lot, as we do each and every week. And to tie everything together and kind of start to wind this show down, what would you say was the main message to the team this week in preparation for the week's game against the Eagles, and just the boxes that you feel like you've got to check in order to come out, with a successful day at Chris Hunter Stadium?
Yeah, just we've kind of already talked about some of this stuff, but one, let's continue to get 1% better each day. Let's learn from our mistakes, and let's get out there and correct them. We got to be more physical on tackling. We got to run our feet when we tackle. It was an issue in the second half. We got to take care of the football. Can't mishandle the football. And then we got to clean up some special teams mistakes and some special teams missed assignments. If we do that, we got a chance.
Anything else you got, man, as we get ready to wrap it up?
I'm excited. It's my first week in the studio. It's going to be my first week in the booth, so I'm ready to go watch some Tigers football.
Indeed. Coach, any final comments?
Well, our boys will be ready to play. They'll be ready to represent Darlington, and they'll be ready to go out and play as hard as they can for as long as they can. And again, if we execute and play good Darlington Tiger football in the fourth quarter, we're going to be in a good situation. So everybody come out. It'll be a great night at Lakeside. Hopefully we'll get a game in at 7:30 like we're supposed to. And the boys will definitely play hard and represent our community the right way.
Can't wait for it, man. We're super excited about it. And as always, man, thank you so much for your time. We really enjoy having the opportunity to host this show on Wednesday evenings. I know sometimes you just about have to get over here on 2 wheels, essentially turning that driveway to get here in time. And we appreciate you giving us your time each and every week. We enjoy it.
Yep. Thank you guys so much.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for everybody watching the show, or if you're listening on the radio. We're glad to have you with us, and we're going to wrap things up. This has been the Coach Grove Show here on the WLAQ YouTube channel, Facebook live feed, and also you catch a replay of the audio on Friday nights before the games. And it's all coming up again on Friday night. We're going to wrap it up. Hope you have a great one, everybody. We appreciate you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of the Coach Groves Show. We invite you to join us again next week as we discuss all things Darlington football with head coach Wayne Groves. Go Tigers!